Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us now from the Big Mac blog, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and DFWOT, it's Mac Engel. How you doing, Mac?
Good, Bryan. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I wish I hadn't sat up late watching a really bad football game last night, but that's what happens when you follow the Cowboys these days.
Pretty much, but it held your interest, didn't it, for all 60 minutes?
But boy, I'm just as... how many different ways can you say they suck every week?
I don't know. We seem to... It is sort of difficult when you have to recycle the same negative descriptors every single week. And unfortunately, at 3 and 5, we've had to do it at least 5 times. And really, with the win against the Bucs, you had to do it a 6th time, too, because that was such a god-awful, ugly win. But at this point, you would gladly go back and take that. Halfway through the season, they are, going towards a nice 6-10 record.
Yes, they are, and that's being optimistic, I think.
I don't know. I mean, the second half of their schedule is really bad, and they only have one team coming that they will face that has a winning record right now, I believe.
But you remember, they don't have a winning record either.
No, and that's just it. I understand that logic. Everybody's saying, well, gee whiz, they're playing all these bad teams. I'm like, well, they are a bad team.
Yes.
But you would have to think that they can beat the Browns. I think Bryan Whedon is, in over his head. You have to think they're going to win a few of these games to make a run at 8-8. But at the end of it, so many. The problem is, Bryan, even if they made a run at it and all these things broke right, what have you seen in the first 8 games gives you the indication that they can sustain it to go on a run?
Not a thing. The offensive line is absolutely horrid.
Yep.
The defense, I read your Big Mac blog this morning, and I know you talked about the defense being bad, but when you ask a defense in the NFL to hold teams under 20 points week after week after week, what can you expect except they're going to wear down eventually?
That's exactly what you expect, and that defense was bad. I mean, that offense was really good. Atlanta's offense is really good. They've got players everywhere. And Matt Ryan's really developed into a top quarterback, and Julio Jones and Roddy White, are maybe the best receiving tandem in the league, and on and on and on. But you're absolutely right. You keep asking your defense to do that, and it's going to happen. The problem I have with that defense, they couldn't get off the field on 3rd down, and the other thing too is they're not making plays. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're getting some stops, and they're putting together numbers, but they're not making plays. They're not getting turnovers. They're not getting set. They're just not making the types of plays that you need from a defense to be really, really good, and that's the problem. They're pretty good. You really can't fault that this team's problem is really defense. It's not. But at the same time, you can't necessarily say that defense is impactful because they're not making impactful plays to win games. And last night's 4th quarter drive that the Falcons had, where they had 2 third-down conversions stopped, but were gift-wrapped 1st downs by Orlando Scandrick, is just a horrible indictment on that team across the board. It's just reflective of the whole team. When it has to get done, it doesn't get done.
They don't make a play in a ball game. They can't. I mean, when you're in the red zone and you get nothing, it's just there's nothing here that says good football anywhere on either side of the football. It's just, they just can't get it done. And then you got Jerry Jones telling Bob Costas he would fire himself as GM, and I'm going, well, no kidding. Everybody else in the country would fire you too. I'm glad you finally noticed this.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think if you're a Cowboys fan, in light of what Jerry said last night to Bob Costas, which is, hey, if I was, I would have fired myself as GM, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say that, he's basically standing firm on his. He feels that for this franchise to move forward and to have success, he is the best one to make the final decision on personnel matters.
Wow.
Even though the record is anything but that.
For 17 years, buddy.
Yeah, and, he keeps going back to those 3 Super Bowls, and, yeah, he's right. He has that. But, I mean, let's face the facts. He came into a team that was, and he deserves some credit for it. Whether you want to give it to him or not, he deserves some credit for it, even though I think everybody knows that when Jimmy came into the league and into the Cowboys, he revolutionized some things, much as the way he did at the University of Miami, which is speed, speed, speed. They were on the ground floor, a lot of these things. They hit on several picks, mostly being Troy and Emmett, and any number of good defenders. But that was it. It was a 5 or 6 year window, and ever since then, it has been mediocrity or bad. and this is what we got. And now everybody's sitting there saying, oh, Sean Payton, Sean Payton. Sean Payton is not going to get out of New Orleans. Tom Benson's not. Do you really think Sean Payton is going to be able to change the culture as long as Jerry Jones continues to remain as GM? No.
I absolutely agree. Why in the world would Sean Payton put himself in this situation, this dysfunctional mess that's been going on for 2 decades now? Why would he choose to do that when he's got something in place and he can come back and be a hero next year, get New Orleans righted, and have them challenging for a Super Bowl again?
I don't think he would, and I think the only reason that you come to Dallas, one, the money's obviously good, but the money's good in most of these. The money's great in all these jobs. But as Bill Parcells told Jerry, the reason why you want to take the Cowboys is because it's the big room. It's the big room in Las Vegas, and you want that. Your ego wants that. To say, I did it. I played the big room and I killed it. Sinatra, or any of these guys that you sort of envisioned as being able to, in entertainment, being able to walk into the big room and play to it and just knock it out of the park. That's why they would do it. That's why Shanahan wanted the job. That's why I think Mike Holmgren would want the job. That is the only pull I can think of Sean Payton wanting the job, is that you've got a guy who will spend money, and you have the Yankees of the NFL. The difference is why the Yankees win, this team is living on past achievements from almost 20 years ago.
So what happens with Jason Garrett now?
It's a great question. I don't know, Brian. I think he's 16-16 in 2 full seasons. No coach with Jerry has been fired that quickly. I think they're going to stick with him. I really don't believe. Now, if Sean Payton says to Tom Benson, I'm done, but I don't think he's going to, because I think he has a good situation, and more importantly, he still has a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the mitigating factors in Sean Payton's decision to stay there. Plus, he can be in total control. I think he would have a hard time. The guy's a micromanager. I think he would have a harder time in Dallas than he would in New Orleans, where he's kind of has carte blanche along with Mickey Loomis to run that thing. So with Garrett, it's one of those, if you're Jerry, well, who else is better out there? I believe in this guy, I believe in this guy, I believe in this guy. This Jason has remained steadfast to his principles and to his themes. I think what's going to change is if Jason Garrett comes back, which he will, I think Jerry's going to tell him, listen, you've got to give up control of calling plays. If you want this job, you have got to cede some of that, because it's not working. And because you got to do something in the off season that you got to sell. I don't think they're going to fire Rob Bryan. I don't think Rob Bryan's going to get a head coaching job. And I think they're going to say, well, we got to make some change. So they'll say, okay, Jason, here's the deal. You're going to be the head coach, and you're going to oversee everything, but you're going to give over play calling responsibilities to Bill Callahan. That's it. And I think that's what we're going to see.
So what would happen then if Jason said, okay, fine, I'll do that if you give up the GM job?
But you know what I mean? It's a great idea, but you know, that's not going to happen.
Oh, I know.
You and I both know that. It's a great idea, but the only time I really think we're going to, at some point, I think Jerry's 70, and at some point, age is going to dictate it.
You're wishing bad things on him now. We're talking time and
deaths now. I don't even think you're wishing bad things on it, but I think that it's the reality of Stephen eventually, his son Stephen Jones will eventually inherit and assume control over it. And Stephen's a really bright guy, and I think Cowboys fans should feel good about Stephen's control, eventual control of the team, and signing off on personnel decisions. But you also got to remember, Stephen was the guy who really thought Quincy Carter was it.
Oh.
And everybody's got duds in their pocket. Everybody, from fans to GMs to coaches to scouts, they've all got duds. But the reality of it is, Jerry Jones, when Jerry was in sort of his formative years as an owner, the guy he looked to the most was Al Davis, and Al never gave up control. So I think what Cowboys fans should just expect is that Jerry's going to be doing this for a long time.
White sweatsuits and chains, baby. It's going to be great.
There you go.
And a big swoop on the hair. It'll be wonderful.
That's right.
Hey, man, thanks very much for coming on with us. We appreciate it. I know you got a tight window today, but we really do like talking to you every week.
Okay, Brian, anytime. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Mac Engel from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Big Mac Block, DFWOT on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM. Mac, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. He's gone. Okay. I tried to be respectful. Yeah, he was doing a Big 12 conference call today, so